Lindsay Ell, welcome to Dublin.
Thank you so much. It feels so good to be back in Ireland.
So you played C2C last night in Glasgow. How'd it go?
It was incredible. The crowd was amazing. They were just on 10 and they were so excited and happy about new music. And I felt like, the crowd was in the palm of our hands. So I had so much fun.
I love your song Right on Time. You wrote that one with Jordan Schmidt and Jeff Warburton. It's a really sort of feel-good anthemic song, very much from the perspective of somebody at ease with themselves, not focusing on what they don't have, appreciating what they do have. That leads me to believe, did this maybe come out of the pandemic?
Yes. How did you know? I think a lot of us learned so many valuable lessons out of the pandemic, and that is definitely one of them for me. I feel like we all got the chance to slow down and stop for a minute and really prioritize the things in our lives and figure out what's important to you, whether that's family or loved ones or your job, or whether you had that list kind of in an order that isn't right. And so yeah, Right on Time was definitely a song that came out of the pandemic. I wrote it with Jordan and Jeff, and I just wanted to write a song that had a message that said, you are right where you need to be. You are right where you belong. And regardless of what you're going through in life, everything's happening for a reason. Things are falling into place when they need to fall into place.
As somebody who never stops, what did you do with yourself during lockdown?
It was a crazy difference, It felt like time just halted and stopped immediately, and yet I think it was the best thing for me. Mm-hmm. I think it was the best thing for a lot of us, as difficult as it was at times, and a lot of people lost loved ones, and we were faced with all of these different challenges, left, right, and center, and yet I'm grateful for the slowdown. Someone who's always going, it was very different for me. And I remember I reached about 102 days or something being quarantined in my house alone, no other human. I hadn't seen like another human. It felt like in 100 days. And I was like, this is a long time to not be connected to somebody else. But I'm grateful for the pandemic. I think it like instilled in us different sides that we never would have seen without it.
Sonically, you do like to mix things up and you like to work with a variety of different producers. I've heard on the grapevine you've been working with the mad scientist, Jay Joyce. Yeah. So what have you been cooking up?
I just love working with talented humans, and especially those that have incredible brains like Jay Joyce. I was so grateful to record my last album, Heart Theory, with Dan Huff, who's also, one of the trifecta incredible producers in town. And so Jay and I have just been having so much fun in the studio. I've been writing a lot with a lot of different people, and yeah, I've definitely learned a bunch working with the mad scientist Jay Joyce.
But again, you've just mentioned there the Heart Theory album produced by Dan Huff. The guy's track record, it's the stuff of legends. You're both two guitar nuts. Mm-hmm. What did you take away from working with him, really?
It was amazing. I felt like as a guitar player, I was so excited to sit down with Dan and just pick his brain a little bit and get a feel for his feel as a player. And I felt like it was something close to a football coach coaching a team. And that's how I felt like he produced me, because he didn't tell me what to do, but he sort of gave me, pylons to like zig and zag through, and triggers. He would be like, okay, in this bar, hit a B flat note, or make sure you hit the 4 in this chord, or whatever. And so he'd give me sort of markers to hit, and then I could paint in between the lines and figure out what I wanted to do. And so it was very helpful, and it was amazing just to really get a feel for how his brain worked.
From speaking to Brad Paisley and Keith Urban, obviously known for working with Dan, they said that what he taught them was to almost use the guitar as another voice. Is that something he brought out in you?
Yeah, very much so. I think you're right. I learned that first from Christian Bush, working with him on my first album, from Sugarland. And then Dan, it was that times 10, it felt like, in terms of guitar speak. Even I remember Christian and I always were saying, you want to be able to sing the guitar solo, and the guitar solo becomes like another voice to the song. And Dan, it was just like, this mosaic that we're painting, and the guitar is another element. You know, I'm a songwriter, I write lyrics, and then I sing them, and then I also play guitar and play these things in between all of these lyrics. And so it definitely has changed my perspective on how I will record music for the rest of my life.
I love your collaboration with Chayce Beckham, Can't Do Without Me. How did that pairing come about?
You know, Chayce and I we're label mates, and so we became fast friends. And you know, shortly after he finished his show, American Idol, he got signed to the label, and so we would be at a bunch of different label things, and we just became close friends. And the head of our label, John Loba, found the song, and he was like, "This is such a hit. Like, I really feel like you guys need to do this song." And so it was just sort of perfect timing how it all came together, and I really wanted to help support Chayce with his thing, and so it was so much fun.
You know, one of the most talked about songs on your last album was a write with Brandy Clark, a song called Make You. And you were so brave in going public with your own story of survival. And this was sort of motivated, I believe, off the back of working with an organisation. Is it Youth for Tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Right. Tell me a bit about this.
Very good. I'm so impressed. I started working with this organization called Youth for Tomorrow, and they're a place that really is a safe spot for kids, especially, you know, age 12 to 18, who have come from difficult homes, difficult situations, anything from drug abuse to sex trafficking and pretty much anything in between. And so I went there to help them launch their music program, and didn't think I was going to talk at all about my story, and just was there to hang with the kids and talk to them. And I ended up at the end of the day in this conference room with a bunch of little girls. And it was me and 12 other little girls, and they were just telling me all about their story. And there was this little 12-year-old girl right next to me, and she's like, "Lindsay, my parents sold me to a sex trafficking company when I was little." And I was like, "When you were little? You're 12 years old? Like, you're so little as it is." And she just had so much bravery in her little body. And I was just like, man, if a 12-year-old has that much courage to say her story, and it inspired me that much, then who am I to say that, you know, our stories can inspire each other? And so I felt like I was holding back the opportunity to be an advocate for other survivors out there, and to let them know that they're not alone, and it's our stories that actually make us who we are. And so I decided that it was time to talk about it. And my first call was to Brandy, because I knew she's just such a gifted songwriter. And sometimes difficult topics like, you know, being a survivor is not the easiest thing to write a song about. And yet Brandy just sat down with me, and we did it so effortlessly.
Now, back in January, electronic dance trio Cheat Codes, they put out this album full of collaborations with country stars, and you worked with them and Lee Brice on a song called How Do You Love? You know, when I first heard about the concept of this album, to me it sounded like it had potential for being an absolute train wreck, but it is wonderful.
Yeah. You know, I first heard about Cheat Codes like years ago, and I was like, man, these guys are such talented DJs. And then when I heard they were working on a country record, I was like, this is really cool to have a band that made 3 different albums in 1 year. It's pretty amazing. And yeah, the fact that they were wanting to come to Nashville and invest in all the artists there, and really do something different to put them on the map in a whole new way. I was like, I will 100% get behind that. That sounds so cool. And so, yeah, Lee and I hopped on this song with them called How Do You Love? And it was just such an amazing experience. It really was one of the first songs they released off that whole project. And it was a lot of fun. I love collaborations especially when they come from artists from completely different worlds, and they sort of like fuse their fan bases together. I think it's so magical.
So towards the end of August, beginning of September of last year, you played some UK dates with the Cadillac 3. What are those guys like on the road? You know, are they fairly wild, or do they just save the wildness for the stage?
They're so cool. They're like the coolest of cool. They always keep their cool wherever they are. They're just dressed cool. They eat and drink cool things. They're cool.
They love music. They just love it.
They love music. They talk in music speak 24/7. They are 3 of the nicest boys that you'll ever meet. They took me in as, you know, their little sister on the road, and I just am so gracious of them. I am so grateful that we finally got to tour together after talking about it for so many years. And you know, the community that they fostered over overseas here in Ireland and the UK is just so special. And so I felt so honored to be able to be welcomed into that family a little bit. And I loved being able to play to a rock crowd, you know. I grew up learning guitar and listening to a lot of rock and pop music, and so it was really magical to be able to play to an audience that I could lean into those directions even more so than I ever have.
You first started playing over here, it would be 10 years ago now, with the band Perry.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've stuck to your guns. You've made this consistent commitment to keep coming back over here and building the fan base. Something I've observed, right? It seems like these days a lot of artists maybe spend more time on social media than in the studio. But you're old school. You seem to be just, all I need is a stage and I can let the music do the talking, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where it started for me, and so that's where it should always start, and that's kind of where inspiration starts, and the stage is home for me. So anytime I'm ever even not feeling really grounded in life, I come back to that, you know. I was raised playing shows, and that's how I feel like I found out who I was, you know, as a little girl growing up. And so yeah, playing live and getting to tour around the world, the fact that I can call that my job is insane and incredible, and I don't take that lightly, and yet it's something that I feel like is my almost responsibility to continue to do, so that I can like be the best version of myself.
And how have you found appearing on Canada's Got Talent as a host?
I have loved being a part of Canada's Got Talent. I mean, it's very similar to BGT, obviously, the Got Talent brand. And one of my favorite parts about the show is it showcases all different kinds of talent. Obviously, I have a soft spot in my heart to singers and musicians, but you get to see dancers and magicians and acrobats and all of these incredible things that you're not used to human beings be able to do, and you see it 10 feet in front of your eyes. And I love doing TV. It's definitely been a world I've been wanting to get more involved in. You know, music is my first and foremost love, obviously, but I feel like the two worlds coincide so well together, and so I've been having a lot of fun, and I can't wait to do more.
And later this year you're going to be opening shows in the US and Canada for Shania freaking Twain.
I know. If you were to tell 10-year-old little Lindsay that she was going to open up for Shania one day, I think I would have said you were crazy, but I still can't really believe it. I'm so truly excited, and she has been a role model of mine ever since I was a little girl. And we got to open up a festival for her last year, and I went down to Vegas to see her show, and she's just so amazing. I mean, they always say don't meet your heroes, and I will say Shania is definitely an exception to that rule. She's just so down to earth and so brilliant, and she likes to hang, and she's just awesome. You know, it's like everything you want a celebrity to be and more. And so I'm so grateful to her, and I cannot wait to share the stage with her and open up crowds for her every night.
You have, you know, toured with Blake Shelton, Keith Urban, Brad Paisley. I mean, what have you taken away from those experiences?
It's crazy, you know, getting to tour with artists that you really, really look up to. You get to learn like the ins and outs of I think when I was young, really starting out in this business, when I was little, I thought that, okay, well, as long as I just get a song on the radio, or as long as I have a number one, or as long as and it was always as long as I fill in the blank sentence. And from getting to tour with all of these artists, you get to see that it's always as long as I fill in the blank. Like, there is always something to fill in that blank. And so if anything, it's about trying to keep your head as level as possible, trying to keep your mental health as like happy as possible amongst all of the upsets and highs and lows, and traveling. You know, I really say we travel for a living, and the music is just the side hustle that's like the fun part. But you know, being on the road is hard. It's hard on you, and so getting to tour with artists like Keith and Brad and Blake, and I just get to see like the pros at the highest level, and just the things that they do to really take care of themselves and to take care of their crew and their road family. And I hope that, you know, I'm implementing a lot of those lessons.
Listen, I drive 2.5 hours down the road and cover this festival for 3 days, and by Monday I am absolutely exhausted. So I can only imagine the permanent state of tiredness you're in.
You know, it's amazing that we get to do this for a living. So if I ever complain about it, I feel like, you can throw a tomato or tomato at me. But yeah, it especially, a lot of shows every day where you're flying to different countries. I mean, we wake up at 4 a.m. a lot of times to take a first flight out, to fly in the morning to get to a venue, to then do sound check the show, or up to like 1 or 2 in the morning to sleep for a couple hours, and then we wake up and do it all over again. So it can get a little taxing, but again, for that hour on stage, every single second is worth it.
Just very finally, Lindsay, the last time we spoke, you were talking about you'd worked at the time with Christian Bush. You'd re-recorded John Mayer's Continuing album, and you've talked to me before about how much of a fan, how much you admire his guitar playing. Me too. And then last year, you pop up on my computer screen when I was watching a YouTube video. You're playing Wild Blue. It's a promo for his PRS Silver Sky SE guitar. I mean, that must have been a pinch me, right?
Very much so, a pinch me. I have looked up to John and his artistry as a writer and guitar player and just all-around artist for a very long time, pretty much ever since I started touring. And the fact that he asked me to be a part of that was just such a huge honor. He, talking about cool people, John Mayer is one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met. And he's just such a gifted songwriter that not many people can like eloquently speak, and I don't even understand how his brain operates. But I'm just really honored to be able to, call him a peer of mine, and to have been a part of that PRS commercial was such a cool thing. I think all of the guitar players, Celise and Ariel and Eric and all of us were just like, what is happening? This is amazing. Is this real? Are we dreaming? And we've all become friends now because of it. And so John has just found a way to like even bring a really small, very nerd guitar player community together, as he's so good at doing. But yeah, it was such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience.
Lindsay, listen, thank you for doing this. Thank you for giving me some time, and I'm just buzzing to see you hit that stage in a bit.
Oh, thank you. We are so excited to play. It feels amazing. We haven't been in Dublin for a long time, and so I am so honored to be back. I am going to try to get a few minutes to take in the sights, even in between soundcheck and the show. But yeah, we are so thrilled. I cannot wait to get on that stage.
Do you drink?
I don't drink a lot, but I even told the boys this morning, I was like, I need to have a Guinness. Like, I need to have a Guinness. Do you guys get tired of people saying that when they come to town?
See, my hand is shaking a little bit, and it's nothing to do with nerves. I am hungover. I was out until 6 a.m.
You were, oh my goodness, 6 a.m.? What were you doing?
You don't want to know. I was up to no good.
Okay.
But I literally walked over to the Gibson Hotel across the road, and one of the waitresses handed me a double espresso, and she said, "That's on the house. You look like you need it."
Well, that's that. We can thank that waitress then. That's just a story waiting to happen. Goodness. Well, maybe I need a double espresso right now, and who knows what's in store. Given that we have a 6 a.m. flight, maybe I shouldn't pull a complete all-nighter. But I do think that there may be one Guinness in my future.
Just head straight to the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Lindsay, cheers. Thank you.